What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are back with another episode of Lions Latest, going through the latest Detroit Lions news. And today, wasn't expecting to make a video like this, but we got some Lions news that I was not expecting either, and I thought, hey, we have to do a video on this, so let's get it started. Welcome, everybody, to a video. Glad you guys are here. Yes, we're back with some Detroit Lions news. Now, before we get too far into this video, gotta give a shout out to BetUS sponsoring today's video. YouTube 150, that is the promo code. That is the sign-up bonus to get a 150% deposit match on your first deposit up to $2,000 and 125% on your next two with that code YouTube 150. We're over here on BetUS. And man, we have the Lions all ready for this upcoming week, and you can see the Lions early -10. It's absolutely nuts. On Thanksgiving, we're -10. We need this Thanksgiving win, but that just feels crazy. The over-under is actually a little bit lower this week at 48. Bears have a good defense. Maybe they don't expect them to score as much. That's probably an interesting line to look at because typically the Lions feel like they're hitting the over all the time. And the fact that it's at 48, maybe it's actually in an interesting spot this time around. But what I'm focused on is these NFL season awards. Coach of the Year, now Dan Campbell has actually become the favorite after like a week ago it was Mike Tomlin. I think the whole Coach of the Year award is very confusing to understand like what we're actually basing it on. Some of them like, well, is that your problem? Like you built the team that way. That's kind of your fault. And then you see, I don't think Tomlin's ever won the Coach of the Year. So I don't completely understand the judging for Coach of the Year. But Dan Campbell's not the favorite. I'm focused on, of course, is the NFL regular season MVP. And we have our guy Goff here, who's now plus 700. So that's actually, the odds have become a little bit worse for him to win this. It was like plus 650, now it's plus 700. So if you want to get in on the Jared Goff sweepstakes to win the MVP, I would say now is the time to do it. He has a game with Josh Allen, who is the favorite at plus 150. You can see Lamar Jackson, after what they did last night to the Chargers, now jumped up to plus 250, but they still have a tough schedule. You see them losing a couple, maybe past him. And then, of course, Saquon Barkley. They're finally going to give it to a back. So I think it's a great time to get in on Jared Goff. A $20 bet would win you $140. $140? Visioning it today, like his speech. Like, what would the speech look like for Goff? I mean, that'd be fantastic. So get involved, man. BetUS, YouTube 150. Now let's get back to the video. Today, this was not the news I was expecting to see, but we got it. So I was like, we have to do some sort of video on this just to update the situation, talk about what could be next for the Lions, and then maybe could they get this player back. But also, something that happened this morning that I don't want to tie these two together and say that they have to be tied together because I'm pretty certain that they're not, but I think it's just an interesting idea that I can throw out there. So if you haven't seen yet, James Houston has been waived by the Detroit Lions. The 2022 6th round pick has been waived. And this is something that I think at one point we all kind of thought like it was a real possibility that he was going to be off the Lions roster. He was on the bubble coming into the season, but he definitely earned sticking around with the Lions. It was a real battle. Matthew Betts was in the mix there. James Houston separated himself. Like this was the guy that can absolutely change the game. He has that difference-making ability as a pass rusher still, so you keep that guy. And I wasn't confident that if we let go of James Houston that we would be able to get him back on the practice squad. Now, that is a possibility that if he clears through waivers, maybe the Lions can't get him back on the practice squad. But I'm really not that confident that it's going to happen. I kind of have an assumption someone's probably going to scoop him up, but we'll see. Hopefully I'm wrong on that, and the Lions do bring James Houston back in some capacity here because I hate the idea of just losing this player. And I was a little bit caught off guard by this decision. Now, we know for a while he wasn't really getting snaps, and then he started to get snaps, and he started to kind of merge himself back into that Sam Backer role, and the Lions were praising him for specifically his run support, though it wasn't perfect, but the effort that he was giving, and he came to life a little bit within the last couple of games. Houston, he played 16 snaps. I thought he actually had a couple of key wins in that game, specifically got under the pads of Larry Tunsil. I thought it was a good matchup for him, and he made a couple of crucial plays in that game. You had the Green Bay game, 36 snaps, so we saw him a ton there. And it was really this Houston game where I thought he showed some real life against the run, and it mainly came back to effort, and you saw it on the backside. You saw his ability to kind of get underneath blocks and just be kind of impactful in the backfield. Here he got on the field late, so led to a big run. That was on the heels of a Green Bay game, which was kind of a mess against the run. You know, we had a couple of big runs that were typically just from the outside linebacker position, just getting moved off their spot or not being able to win their gap, and here comes a big run. So this was a good step in the right direction. And then, of course, we also saw him in 15 snaps against the Jaguars, and you would get like these sprinkled in flash plays of something that could be very important. We saw it against Minnesota. It was like there was a big play that was just kind of flashed in there. It wasn't incredibly consistent, but he also wasn't consistently on the field. And then this last week against Indianapolis, he only plays 4 snaps. Now, again, I think some of that is who you're playing. You know you have to stop the run, so I think that plays a lot into this. And with the Lions, who have been bringing in linebackers left and right, you welcome David Long to the building, Ezekiel Turner. These guys are getting more snaps. I mean, you look look at last week's snap counts, Trevor Nowatzki plays 21 snaps. You have Ben Neiman playing 11. Ezekiel Turner plays 11. David Long plays 13 snaps. And then you have Malcolm Rodriguez, who plays almost 50 snaps in this last game. And with all these new linebackers coming in, the Lions are kind of moving guys around. The biggest piece to all of this for me was Malcolm Rodriguez, because he was playing all over the field. He was still able to step into that Will backer role, but he was also stepping down on the line of scrimmage, playing some Sam backer for us a little bit, and I thought he was incredibly successful in that role. Now, I still don't think we have much of a pass rusher in that position without Derek Barnes, and also when James Houston is not there, though he kind of became a specialist at some point for the Lions. It was like, can we make him that Sam backer for us? But I still don't think we have really a specialist as a pass rusher in that position on early down, specifically when we have that piece on the field, because teams are in some base personnel, a couple of tight ends on the field. But Malcolm Rodriguez did play pretty well when I saw him in that role this past week. I thought better than we saw like our first impressions of Ben Neiman, for example, in that position. And that's because, hey, he's willing to take on tight ends at the point of attack. We know that he's a finisher. And in coverage, I thought he was playing really fast, which is key for that positional group, to play very fast and discipline and kind of fly around when you're on the line of scrimmage. I thought that's what Malcolm Rodriguez brought. But there was flexibility there, and Malcolm's ability to step down and play that role allowed David Long to go to Will backer at times. And Ezekiel Turner plays that role for the Lions as well now over the last few weeks. And then Ben Neiman kind of spotted in, like he would play on the ball, he'd line up over tight ends, play on ball press, and then other times he could kick the off ball. So there's a lot of flexibility with the Lions have at the linebacker room, but James Houston was kind of the unique piece to all of this. And now he has been waived. And based on my counting, as long as my counting is correct, this could be wrong, Lions now have 52 players on their 53-man roster. So they do have an open roster spot. Now, this could be simply as, hey, we have a guy like David Long who's on our practice squad who's now playing. David Long, he's going to need a spot on the 53. We like him going forward, so we're going to have to sign him to this roster spot. That's very possible. They're just opening up a roster spot for that, and Malcolm showing his flexibility and having Trevor Nowatzki, who can also step down. We know he played the sandback role a little bit for us as well, and he actually does create a little bit of pressure from there. Had one pressure in this past game. So with all this flexibility, like, hey, we just need an open roster spot because eventually here he's going to sign to the 53 because we're going to need that spot open. Or it's the potential crazy idea, which I'm just going to throw out there. I'm not saying I think this is actually going to happen, but I think it's an idea that's worth mentioning. Shaq Barrett, today, the reports came out that he was looking to unretire. Now, the Miami Dolphins hold rights to his contract, so I don't know what that situation would look like. Is he trying to unretire just to come back with Miami because Miami's been playing well recently, or is he looking to go somewhere else? And I thought Philadelphia, an Eagles account, they posted that, hey, maybe the Eagles talked him out of retirement. So now everybody's kind of considering, like, hey, where could this guy end up going? And I just think it's an interesting idea that Shaq Barrett could potentially be on the table for the Lions, that these two things kind of happened within the same day. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I think it's an interesting idea to throw out with Shaq Barrett, and I'm going to do it because last season, talked about this at one point, like, does it make sense to bring in Shaq Barrett? And I think I was on the bandwagon of like, yeah, bring in Shaq Barrett. He looks like a good player still. He still has stuff left in the tank. He's 32 years old now. Last season, we saw him play with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 350 pass rush snaps. Like, he played in the playoffs against us. He never really shined crazy against us, but like, this was a guy that I remember, like, the preparation was, hey, Shaq Barrett can still play. And I was a little bit blown away with, like, this guy's got something still in the tank here. So I went back today to just kind of check out what we saw from 2023 because we haven't seen him in 2024. And obviously the Lions in the past have brought in kind of these veteran edge rushers towards the end of the year. So I don't know if there's actually conversations here or not, but if there was, would it make sense? My answer would be yes. I think it would make a ton of sense. Shaq Barrett, 6'2", 250, more of a stout build, already plays that sandbacker role, shows a lot of coverage flexibility in his game already. They use him a lot in those spots with Tampa Bay because of all the movement that they use with their outside linebackers. And then as a pass rusher, he's always had that ability where he is just a very nuanced pass rusher. The footwork is consistent. There's not many false steps. It opens up the ability to win inside, outside. He is a stout type of player that wins with kind of pop and close. He doesn't have some of like the slither that you'll get with other pass rushers that are maybe on a little bit of the slimmer side, or some of the length that other pass rushers may bring to the table. He doesn't show some of that slither to kind of split gaps as often, and around the arc you'll see it. It feels like even though he has the body control to kind of slow himself down, try to close the top of the pass rush, you don't always see some of that just natural bend and lean to really turn the corner and get after the quarterback. I still love the footwork. I love the little skip step into the spin move, which is absolutely nasty when he deploys that. Last season, he was incredibly productive. 49 pressures last season, 5 sacks last season, and again on 350 pass rush snaps. Big thing that stands out to me with Shaq Barrett is actually his run defense. And this past season, from what I had seen so far, I haven't went through all this stuff, of course, but Shaq Barrett could play the run. And I remember that last time we prepared, and even seeing this, I was like, Shaq Barrett's actually pretty good against the run. He still has that lateral burst. There's still some suddenness to his game. You'll see that in his get off as well. Very reactive, great timing off the line of scrimmage. I mean, I don't think he has the best closing speed or acceleration around the corner. He doesn't feel like he has that second gear, but he does have his very good timing. And against the run, you see it. You see in the way he settles down, the way he shows these lateral bursts to kind of close ground. He plays with great vision against the run. And again, he's got that stout build where he's a little bit of a problem for tight ends at the point of attack. He can displace guys, play behind the line of scrimmage, and just become a little bit of a factor into the run game. So it's not like just a pure pass rush type of piece. He's been in this role, and he could handle this role, and he can also handle what the run game can also bring, with also being a legitimate pass rusher, which again, we don't really have that piece within all this linebacker versatility that we currently do have. And he's got enough versatility to his game where he has multiple ways to win as a powerful finisher with, to me, some of the best hands as a pass rusher, right? There's some things that are just lacking right now, but he has some of the best hands, the swipes, the swims, the timing with his hands, the activeness with his hands, and there's some real jolt in his hands as well. There's some heaviness when he pops guys, especially when he transitions speeds to power. Even though it kind of dies out, there is some jolt there on the initial contact. So I think that it's just an interesting idea to bring up the 32-year-old that's like, hey, I want to unretire today, and then in the same day, the Lions are like, hey, we're moving off James Houston. Say it's probably that the Lions are opening up a roster spot for somebody. We know Mosley's back, and this would be counting Mosley towards 53 in that 52. So we know Mosley's back, but it would probably be for somebody off the practice squad and maybe signed to the 53-man roster. But it's an interesting move that the Lions made here. They probably felt really good, I would assume, about the versatility they thought with their linebacker room, so they felt good about making this move, and I'm hoping that we can get Houston back. But that being said, I am a little bit surprised that this happened. The role for Houston is just not really there right now. But I also think that the idea of adding another pass rusher should not be taken off the table. Maybe it's not Shaq Barrett, maybe it's somebody else, but we've seen the Lions do this in the past. Going to add a veteran that's still out there that can get after the quarterback, a guy like Barrett that has a lot left in the tank, he's only 32 and can absolutely play the run. I think it's an interesting idea to pair the two together. That being said, though, I'm going to leave it there. Just wanted to make this a quick update. Wishing James Houston the best of luck going forward, man. This guy is an absolute dog, and I'm hoping our paths cross again, and you end up back on the Lions in some form or fashion here at some point. I don't want this guy to just walk away. I hope that's not how this story is going to end with the Lions, because this guy is incredible. He is an absolute talent, and I respect the heck out of him battling back, trying to find and carve out his own role, continuing to fight, and finding ways to get really some key wins that have been crucial at times this season. With that being said, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Shout out to BetUS, YouTube 150. That is the code. Thank you, Pride, for watching, and I'm out.